Ever had a Karen measure your driveway at dawn? Paper slap on my cabin truck? Subject to tow, like she owned the place under the porch glare. She doubled down midnight to attempt fake vehicle harmony fines, even an emergency ordinance aimed at only my truck, all printed on HOA letterhead. So I brought something louder than her clipboard, my attorney, a court-stamped ledger seizure order that hit the clubhouse table with a gavel drop thud, turning her numbers into daylight. Next week, we walk into the budget meeting, and the HOA finally goes silent. The first thing I saw that morning wasn't the sky over our cul-de-sac. It was a sheet of paper trapped under the wiper of my cabin truck. HOA letterhead. All caps. Notice of violation. Cabin truck. Subject to tow. I stood in the driveway in my work boots, coffee still on the kitchen counter. The front door opened. Jack Mia called. "You out there already?" "Yeah," I said. "You're gonna want to see this." She stepped onto the porch, squinting. "Tell me that's a coupon and not another HOA tantrum." I peeled the paper off the glass. "Depends how you feel about vehicle harmony." She came down the steps, took the page, and read. Her eyes narrowed. "Jack, that's Karen's handwriting," she said softly. She tapped the signature line. "Dalrymple. Same little hook on the D." "Yeah," I said. "And the timestamp says 5:42 a.m. My phone buzzed. The driveway camera app flashed a red dot. I thumbed it open and hit play. The clip from yesterday showed our driveway in gray. Timestamp 05:42. The sensor over the garage beeped as it came on. Karen Dalrymple walked into frame in her visor and pastel windbreaker, slid the notice under the wiper, then stepped back with her hands on her hips like she'd planted a flag. The mic caught the scrape of paper on glass. That sound sat in my stomach. Mia exhaled. She got up before sunrise just to threaten your truck. "Looks that way. Who wakes up mad enough to print forms at 5 in the morning, Karen?" I said. "She's been circling this thing all week." Mia scanned the notice again. "All oversized commercial or recreational vehicles that disrupt visual harmony shall be prohibited from driveway parking and subject to tow." "Since when?" "Since now," I said. "There's no section number, no bylaw reference, just harmony." She looked past me at the truck. Long bed camper shell paint, faded but solid. "Your cabin truck's been there since we closed on this house. Day one," I said. "It was here before her golf cart." A sedan rolled past. Old Mr. Greeley in his cap. He saw the paper and my face and let out a sigh. "She's been circling your truck since Tuesday," he called. Knew that wasn't cardio. "Morning, Bill," I said. "You watch her," he said. "Next step is a tow truck." He rolled away. The burn in my chest settled into something heavier. Mia lowered the paper. "There's a phone number at the bottom," she said. "You going to call it or frame it?" "Both," I said. "But first I want Hank to read it." "Diner," she asked. "Where else?" The bell over Ridgeway Diner's door rang when I walked in. Bacon, burnt coffee men in ball caps hunched over mugs. On the back wall, the bulletin board was a mess of business cards and lost pet flyers. Dead center, a fresh flyer, Cedar Ridge, HOA. Annual Budget Meeting. I slid into Hank Sanders' booth and dropped the notice on the Formica. "You've got that Karen found a new rule face," he said. "What did she bless you with?" "Apparently my cabin truck is bad for visual harmony," I said. He wiped his fingers, picked up the paper, and read. His eyebrows climbed. "Vehicle harmony policy," he said. "That's creative. Creative as in, we all voted on it, or creative as in, she made it up before breakfast," I asked. He flipped the notice, hunting for something that wasn't there. "There's no article number, no amendment reference. Jack, our covenants don't have a vehicle harmony section." I'd know. I helped rewrite half of them. "So, this isn't real," I said. "It's real that she printed it on HOA letterhead," he said. "But, as a bylaw now, this is Karen on a power trip." The waitress topped off our mugs. From the next booth, Doris shifted so she could see us postal tote on the seat. "That another Karen special?" she asked. "I've been hauling certified letters with her name on them all month. People sign with their hands shaking. Flags, shutters. Tomato plants," Hank said. "Now she's graduated to cabin trucks." I pulled the notice back. At the bottom in bold was a phone number for compliance concerns. "You should call," Hank said. "Let her put this fantasy on tape." "You think she'll actually admit it?" I asked. "She can't help herself," he said. "If she thinks it's real, she'll say it out loud." I set my phone on the table, dialed the number, and hit speaker. It rang twice. "Cedar Ridge Compliance." "This is Karen," she said. Cheerful, sharp. "Hi, Karen. It's Jack Hollister," I said. "I'm looking at a vehicle harmony policy notice you left on my cabin truck this morning." Paper rustled on her end. "Yes," she said. "You're in violation. That truck is oversized commercial in appearance and visually disruptive. You need to move it to off-site storage within 72 hours, or it will be towed. You mind pointing me to the section in the bylaws?" I asked. I must have missed the vote on vehicle harmony. "I'm the chair of compliance," she said, voice tightening. "I don't need you to approve every policy. I won't let a cabin truck drag down values here, Mr. Hollister. So either you move it, or a tow company will." Hank's eyes met mine over the rim of his mug. I ended the call and set the phone down between us. He took a slow sip of coffee. "Well," he said, "if she invented a policy to tow your cabin truck." He nodded toward the HOA flyer on the bulletin board. "What else has she invented in the books?" At 11:58 p.m., my phone beeped on the nightstand. The driveway camera app, motion detected. Mia stirred beside me. "Everything okay?" she mumbled. "I don't know yet," I said. I tapped the alert. The live feed popped up in gray. Our driveway filled the screen. The cabin truck sat center frame under the streetlight. Behind it, a tow truck eased backward into the cul-de-sac amber bar, spinning. The backup beeper started its high chirp. "Beep, beep, beep. Tell me that's not for your truck," Mia said, pushing up on one elbow. "Wish I could," I said. On the screen, the tow truck stopped short of my hitch. A heavy-set guy climbed down from the cab hoodie and work boots face caught in the glare. He glanced toward the street, then toward our porch, then at the cabin truck like he already regretted the job. He pulled a chain off the hook and walked straight toward my truck. I didn't head for the door. I opened the camera controls and hit the little microphone icon. It glowed red. "Good evening," I said, voice going through the phone and out the speaker under the eaves. "That cabin truck you're about to hook is on private property. You don't have a court order, and you don't have my consent." The driver froze. The chain hung from his hands. He squinted up at the camera. This is for the HOA," he said. His voice came through thin and unsure. "I got a work order. Compliance call." "Then read it to me," I said. "Name, address, and the authority you think you have." He dug in his pocket and unfolded a sheet. "HOA tow authorization," he read. "Property 214 Maple. Target one white cabin truck in driveway. Status non-compliant." He swallowed. "Signed Karen Dalrymple, Treasurer and Compliance Chair." Mia's breath hissed between her teeth. "She actually put that in writing," she whispered. "That's not a court order," I said into the mic. "That's just Karen on letterhead. You hook my cabin truck, you're trespassing and trying to haul property off a private driveway. That's not an HOA favor. That's you on the hook." He shifted his weight, looking back at his tow truck like maybe it could back out of this without him. "I just do the calls they send me, man," he said. "They said it was all approved. They said you'd been warned." "You're being warned now," I said. "You are on camera. This audio is being recorded. If you move that chain, I call the sheriff, and my first question will be, who ordered you onto my driveway at midnight?" Mia nudged my arm. "Ask who he talked to." "Who's your contact?" I asked. "Who gave you that authorization?" He hesitated, then pulled out his phone. "Lady named Karen," he said. "Dalrymple, she called earlier, said it was urgent." He thumbed a button. "Here, I'll put her on." The call rang twice, then clicked. He put it on speaker. "Ms. Dalrymple," he said. "Yeah, I'm at his cabin truck now, in the driveway." Karen's voice snapped through the tiny speaker. "Then hook it," she said. "You're authorized. The truck's in violation. Just hook it. I'll sign whatever." "Ma'am," I said, letting my voice cut in through the camera, "you don't have the power to tow from a private driveway without a court order. The county sheriff already told you that. You're still trying to do it in the dark." There was a pause. "Who is that?" she demanded. "The owner of the cabin truck you're trying to take with an HOA form," I said, "and the man whose cameras are recording every word you're saying about just hooking it." The driver looked from his phone to the camera, then down at the chain. I could almost see the numbers moving in his head, one midnight cash job against one recorded trespass call. "Just hook it," Karen repeated. "You have authorization." He shook his head. "Not like this lady," he said. "Not from somebody's driveway while they're watching." He hit end. The line went dead. For a second, he just stood there, chain heavy in his hands. Then he let it slide back onto the steel hook with a clatter. "Not getting burned for her again," he muttered. He climbed back into the cab. The backup beeper went quiet. The tow truck rolled out of the cul-de-sac and down Maple. On my phone, the camera feed settled back to a still-frame cabin truck driveway streetlight. Mia exhaled behind me. "She really tried to take it," she said. "At midnight. From our driveway." "Yeah," I said. The anger had cooled into something denser. "She did." We watched the timestamp tick over to 0007. Mia looked up at me, eyes hard now. "If she's bold enough to tow your cabin truck at midnight, she said she's bold enough to hide things in that ledger." Hank didn't start with hello. He started with paper. He slid a stack of printed spreadsheets across the diner table like a dealer pushing out cards. The top page was labeled Cedar Ridge HOA, capital ledger in small, careful type. "Where'd you get that?" I asked. "Annual disclosure," he said. "They're required to post it on the portal before the budget meeting. They buried it 3 clicks deep. I printed it before they remember I can read." He smoothed the page with his palm. The paper crackled. "There," he said, tapping the middle column with his pen. "See this line? Cap Improv. Security cart. $14,800. I let out a low whistle. 14,800 for a golf cart with a light bar. "Security cart," he corrected, air quoting. "No bid notes, no vendor, no depreciation schedule. Just one fat number in a column that should scare anybody who's ever balanced a checkbook." The smells of bacon and coffee wrapped around us. Behind Hank, the bulletin board was crowded with flyers, Lost Dog Church BBQ, and that HOA budget meeting printed in bold blue. "If these numbers are real," Hank said, voice low, "an auditor could shred this." Meaning what I asked. Meaning Karen's little vehicle harmony stunt on your cabin truck might be the part you can see, he said. The rest could be under the surface in here. He flipped to the next page. More lines. More numbers. Cap Improv. Gate upgrades. $9,200, he read. "But we didn't get a new gate, Jack. We got a new keypad and a can of paint." He ran his finger down the column. Cap Reserve Transfer. $6,000. Transfer to where? Which reserve no notes. And here, legal, collections. $11,350. But last year, we had one property in collections for 3 months. Somebody's billing a lot of time or they're calling everything legal and hoping nobody asks. Doris slid into the booth behind me with a fresh stack of mail tubs. "You boys talking about Karen's magic ledger?" she asked. "You've seen it," I said. "I've seen the fallout," she said. "Certified letters week after week. Late fees, threats of liens, final notices with her name stamped all over them. Some of those folks are on fixed incomes." One lady's hand shook so bad she could barely sign for the envelope. Hank tapped another line. Cap Improv. Security cart. $14,800, he repeated. "That's the same cart she uses to circle your truck." "Nice," I said. "At least she's getting mileage out of it." My phone buzzed on the table. I flipped it over. Cedar Ridge. HOA. Portal. New message. Subject line, daily. Fine. Cabin, truck. I opened it. The email was short and cold. "Effective today, a daily fine of $50 will be assessed to your account for continued non-compliance with vehicle harmony policy regarding the cabin truck in your driveway." Mia's name was on the account, too. That stung. "They've started daily fines," I said. $50 a day. "For a policy that doesn't exist," Hank said. "And that email is more paper. They just don't realize it yet." I watched the cursor blink at the bottom of the message. No appeal instructions, no section reference, just the number and the threat. Cabin truck's just bait, isn't it? I said. Keep me busy on the driveway while she does whatever she wants with those columns. Hank slid the ledger a little closer to me. She likes rules because she thinks nobody will look behind them, he said. But this, he rapped the capital ledger with his knuckles. These are numbers. Numbers either add up or they don't. So what do we do? I asked. Besides, keep the truck chained to the concrete and pay $50 a day out of spite. He smiled for the first time that morning. We don't pay, he said. We document. We let her stack her own paperwork until it can't stand anymore. And we get someone who scares board members for a living to look at this. Who? Cole Ramirez, he said. HOA attorney on the other side. He took a board down 2 towns over for playing games with reserve funds. He knows where people like Karen like to hide their fun money. Doris nodded toward the ledger. You get a guy like that looking at those numbers, she said. Karen's golf cart might end up at a sheriff's auction. I pulled out my phone and snapped photos of the ledger pages, Cap Improv. Security cart, $14,800. Gate upgrades, vague legal, collections. Each shot rolled into my camera roll like an exhibit. In the last frame, Hank's pen pointed at the security cart line like an arrow. She picked the wrong cabin truck, I said. Hank capped his pen and tucked it in his shirt pocket. We go to Cole, he said, before she rewrites more rules. Karen showed up on a Thursday with a tape measure and that look that meant trouble. I heard the electric whine of her security cart first. By the time I stepped onto the porch, she was already in my driveway, tape slung over one shoulder. Tyler Holt, the newest board member, trailed behind with a clipboard. Mia stood in the yard with the hose. Sprinklers hissed. Neighbors in lawn chairs turned their heads toward the action. Karen pointed the tape head at my cabin truck like she was reading charges. We're verifying your encroachment. Mr. Hollister, she called. Afternoon. Karen, I said. Is that thing calibrated for imagination or just concrete? She didn't blink. Tyler, start at the curb, she said. Per the emergency parking ordinance. He hooked the metal end on the curb. The tape hissed out toward my front bumper. Mia shot me a look. Since when do we have an emergency? She asked. Apparently my cabin truck caused one, I said. Karen pulled a folded page from her folder and held it up like a warrant. Even from the porch I could read the header, Cedar Ridge HOA. Emergency Parking Ordinance. Section 1, she read. Any vehicle projecting beyond the designated sight line from curb to mailbox shall be deemed an encroachment and may be fined or towed. This is about safety. Sight lines, emergency access. Curb to mailbox, I repeated. Funny, that wasn't in the covenants last month. Hank drifted up the sidewalk, eyes on the paper. Did the fire marshal draft that for you, he asked. Or is this one of your home recipes? Karen's jaw tightened. This is an internal ordinance, Edward, she said. We don't have to explain every safety improvement to the peanut gallery. Tyler reached the truck and squinted at the tape. 4.5 inches, he said quietly. 4.5 inches past the line, Karen repeated, Document that. Which line, I asked. The one on the street or the one in your head? A couple of people laughed. Phones were up now. Doris stood at her mailbox, camera steady on Karen. Tyler leaned toward me as he wrote. This new rule, he murmured, I never voted on it. We didn't have a meeting. I raised my eyebrows. Then, when exactly did it become law? I asked. Karen shot him a look. The board empowered compliance to act between meetings, she snapped. You signed that resolution, Tyler. I signed a resolution about enforcing existing bylaws, he said. Color crept up his neck. Not writing new ones on the side. Mia shut off the hose and walked over. So, this emergency ordinance, she said. When did homeowners get notified, before or after you started taping notices to our cabin truck? We are in the process of posting it to the portal, Karen said. We don't have to ask your permission first. And who does it apply to? I asked. Everyone whose bumper crosses this magical sight line, or just me. For the first time, she hesitated. It was brief, but in the quiet it rang. Right now, she said, this applies only to your cabin truck. The words landed like a dropped wrench. Someone across the circle let out a low whistle. Only Hank repeated softly, "That's an interesting word in a safety rule." "This isn't selective," Karen snapped. "This is proactive. Your truck is the worst offender. The others will be addressed." "But you started with the one vehicle you've been circling at 5 in the morning," Mia said. "Seems personal from here." I pulled out my phone and opened the camera. The red dot glowed as I started recording Karen with the tape Tyler with the clipboard my cabin truck front and center neighbors along the curb. For the record, I said we're watching HOA President Karen Dalrymple enforce an emergency parking ordinance that was never voted on, never noticed to homeowners, and currently applies to exactly one vehicle, my cabin truck. Tyler stared at his shoes. Karen snapped the tape back into its case with a loud clack. "You've been warned, Mr. Hollister," she said. "The fines will continue. The next tow authorization will not be canceled." She turned and climbed into the security cart. Tyler followed. The electric motor whined away. "Got that Doris called." "I got it," I said, holding up my phone. So did every camera in this cul-de-sac. That night I sat at the kitchen table with my laptop open. The video played on loop, the tape, the paper, the words, "Only your cabin truck." I scrolled to the email Hank had sent and clicked the contact he'd underlined. Cole Ramirez, HOA litigation. "Ramirez Law," a voice said when the call connected. "Mr. Ramirez." I said, staring at Karen frozen on my screen. "My name's Jack Hollister in Cedar Ridge." Karen targeted my cabin truck with a rule she never voted on. "I want this on record." Cole didn't bother with small talk. He set a fat stack of paper on the conference table hard enough to rattle my coffee. "She tried towing your cabin truck," he said, tapping the top page and cooked parts of this capital ledger. The scanner on the credenza gave a steady beep as it pulled in another document from the pile Hank and I had built violation notice tow. Authorization emergency ordinance fine emails, camera stills, ledger printouts. I sat across from him in my work jeans. "Start at the beginning," Cole said. "Windshield notice to tape measure. 1 clean run." I kept it tight. "Notice of violation on the cabin truck," I said. "Made up vehicle harmony policy. Karen's signature no bylaw reference. Midnight tow attempt with an HOA tow. Authorization no court order. She's on speaker telling the driver, 'Just hook it.' He bails when I tell him he's on camera. Then, daily fines $50 a day. After that, she shows up with Tyler and an emergency parking ordinance nobody voted on measures 4.5 inches from curb to bumper and says, 'Right now, this applies only to your cabin truck.'" Cole's pen moved while I talked. The scanner beeped again as the tow form disappeared into its gut. "Ledger," he said. Hank pulled the capital ledger off the HOA portal, I said. 14.8 for a security cart, the same one she uses to circle my truck. 9.2 for gate upgrades we never got. $6,000 into a reserve transfer with no destination. Big, legal, collections line that doesn't match any case we've heard of. Meanwhile, Doris has been hauling certified letters all month with Karen's name on every envelope. Cole flipped to the capital ledger page. Siapi Improv. Security cart. $14,800 was already circled. If these numbers are real, he said an auditor could shred this. Here's what I see he said. 1. She invented a policy aimed at your cabin truck. 2. She tried to enforce it with an illegal tow from your driveway. 3. When that failed, she fabricated an emergency ordinance and admitted on video it applies only to you. That's harassment and selective enforcement. 4. At the same time, she's moving capital funds in ways that don't match what's on the ground. That's potential misuse of association money. So my truck is the handle, I said. The ledger is the bag she doesn't want anyone opening. Exactly, he said. Most people grumble at the mailbox and pay. You documented. That's the difference between a rant and a case. The scanner gave one last beep and went quiet. Cole stood, gathered a slimmer stack, and moved to his desk. "This isn't going to be a shouting match in the clubhouse," he said. "We're going to do this in the one room Karen doesn't run." He woke his computer, pulled up a pleading template, and started typing. The caption appeared at the top of the screen, Hollister vs. Cedar Ridge. Homeowners Association motion to compel records and temporary seizure of capital ledger seizure, I asked. In plain English, he said, I'm asking the judge to let me take custody of their capital ledger and supporting records under court supervision. If I file this motion and the judge signs, your attorney will be the one seizing their HOA capital ledger. What about the truck, I asked. I don't want to win on paper and still lose my cabin truck. The truck tells the story, he said. Notice on your windshield. Tow attempt in your driveway. Emergency ordinance on your street. All tied to one asset. It shows motive spite, not safety, and a pattern. We bring that, plus this ledger, plus your neighbor's affidavits into court. Then we let a judge decide who's really out of line. He dropped in exhibit labels as he worked Exhibit A, Vehicle Harmony Notice. Exhibit B, Tow Authorization. Exhibit C, Driveway, Camera. Still, Exhibit D, Emergency Parking Ordinance. Exhibit E, Capital Ledger Extract. Exhibit F, Affidavits. Hank's writing one, I said. Doris will sign. A couple families with bogus fees said they would too. Good, he said. Patterns win cases. Judges don't care about HOA gossip. They care about repeated conduct and paper. He printed the motion. The pages came out warm. He stapled them, then pulled a second document from a red folder. This is the draft order I'm going to attach, he said. He slid it toward me. The caption matched. My name sat across from Cedar Ridge Homeowners Association. In the middle paragraph, I found the line that mattered. The capital ledger of Cedar Ridge Homeowners Association, including all supporting records, is hereby seized by counsel for plaintiff Jack Hollister under court supervision, pending further order of this court. She tried to tow your cabin truck, Cole said quietly. We're going to tow her capital ledger legally. For the first time since I'd peeled that notice off my windshield, something in my chest eased. I'm not trying to burn the neighborhood down, I said. I just want my truck where it belongs and the money where it's supposed to go, and that he said uncapping his pen is exactly how you explain this to a judge. He signed the motion with a quick, practiced signature and set the pen down. Next steps, he said. I file this, I push for a hearing, and you keep doing what you've been doing. Don't move the cabin truck, don't blow up at her, and don't give her anything she can spin. When we walk into that budget meeting, this will already be moving. She's been writing rules in the dark. We're about to flip on the lights. He slipped the signed motion and draft order into a folder. The clasp clicked shut. When this hits, he said, your neighbors are going to know the score. Finally, someone fought back. That's what they'll be thinking, even if they don't say it. I stepped to his window. 4 floors down, my cabin truck sat in the paylot across the street, long bed and camper shell wedged between shiny crossovers. Round 1 had been on my driveway. Round 2 starts at the budget meeting, I said, and this time Cole said behind me, you're not stepping into that room alone. The projector hummed over my head, washing the clubhouse wall in cold light. On the screen, frozen in high definition, my cabin truck sat in our driveway under the street lamp. Over the image, in big black letters, Cole had dropped in a title, Exhibit A, Selective Enforcement. I took the microphone. It squealed once, then settled into a low buzz in my hand. She tried towing my cabin truck, I said, voice carrying across the folding chairs. Tonight, my attorney shows you the rest. A ripple went through the room. The clubhouse was packed, homeowners lining the walls, some standing along the back. The smell of burnt coffee and floor polish. Hank stood near the side door, arms folded. Doris had her mail tote on the floor by her feet, phone ready. Up front, the board table formed a little barricade. Karen sat in the middle in her blazer, lips pressed thin. Tyler to her right, 2 other board members to her left. The Cedar Ridge banner drooped behind them. She dabbed the mic closer. Before Mr. Hollister turns this into a circus, she said, I'd like to note that our capital reserves are stronger than ever. We've invested in security safety, and... She clicked to her own slide a pie chart of capital reserves. Around the edges in small font, I caught the labels I'd seen in the printout: Security Cart Gate, Upgrades Legal, Collections. She talked fast, skimming the numbers. As you can see, she said, our security cart was a one-time necessary expense to protect property values. Gate upgrades were essential for access control. Legal fees are unfortunately required when some homeowners refuse to comply. Tyler stared at the table. "Thank you," Karen Hank said from the side voice dry. "And now maybe let the homeowner you've been circling for a month speak." A few people clapped. Karen's jaw tightened, but she nodded toward me and flicked her wrist at the projector guy. My slide came back up. "Cabin truck, Exhibit A." "Name's Jack Hollister," I said. "I'm the guy with the cabin truck. I'm also the guy who got up one morning to find this." I held up the original notice of violation. The paper was wrinkled now, corners soft from being handled. "This notice," I said, "cites a vehicle harmony policy that does not exist in our bylaws. It threatened to tow my cabin truck from my driveway within 72 hours. No section number, no vote. Just a made-up rule with our treasurer's signature on it." A murmur rolled across the room. I nodded at Cole. He clicked his laptop. The projector showed the night vision clip from my driveway. We watched the tow truck back in amber bar spinning chain in the driver's hands. From the speakers, my own voice came through calm, amplified from the camera. "That cabin truck you're about to hook is on private property." We all watched Mel freeze, then look at the chain. We heard him read off the HOA tow authorization with Karen's name on it. We heard her voice crackle off his phone. "Just hook it." Someone in the back whispered, "Wow." On the front row, a deputy from the county sheriff's office sat with his arms folded, expression neutral. His badge caught the projector light every time the scene changed. He was only here to keep the peace, but everyone had seen him take notes when the audio played. The clip ended. The room stayed quiet. "Exhibit B," I said. "Midnight tow attempt. No court order, no sheriff. Just an HOA form printed on letterhead and a late-night phone call." Cole clicked again. The image switched to the line in the street video Karen with the tape measure Tyler with the clipboard neighbors filming from their porches. Her own words filled the clubhouse. "Right now, this applies only to your cabin truck." Hank stepped up to the aisle mic. "For the record," he said, "I serve on the compliance committee. That emergency parking ordinance was never properly noticed, never voted on by the full board, and never sent to homeowners before Ms. Dalrymple began enforcing it. It's not valid." Karen grabbed her mic. "We empowered compliance to act between meetings," she said. "We are allowed to act in emergencies, like a 4-inch bumper," somebody muttered. Laughter, sharp and bitter. "Let's stay on track," Cole said, rising from his chair at my side. He buttoned his jacket and walked to the center aisle. The projector light caught the gray at his temples. "For those who don't know me," he said into the mic, "my name is Cole Ramirez. I am counsel for Mr. Hollister." He let that settle. "I'm also an attorney who has spent the last 15 years dealing with homeowners associations that forget what their powers are and aren't." Karen snorted into her mic. "This is a private association meeting," she said. "We don't need outside counsel from angry truck owners." "Actually," Cole said mildly, "you do, because we're not just talking about one cabin truck anymore." He turned slightly and nodded to the board table. "Ms. Dalrymple," he said earlier, "you told your neighbors that your capital reserves are stronger than ever. You highlighted a security card expense of $14,800. You did not mention that this security card is the same vehicle you've been using to circle one homeowner's driveway, or that the line items for gate upgrades and legal fees don't match observable reality on the ground." He held up a stapled packet the motion. "I'm not here just to show videos," he said. "I'm here because a judge has seen this paperwork and signed something." He nodded toward the deputy. The deputy straightened. Cole unfolded a single-page order with the court seal at the top. The projector camera zoomed in as he laid it on the document camera. The text appeared huge on the screen behind him. In the matter of Hollister versus Cedar Ridge Homeowners Association, he read it is hereby ordered that the capital ledger of Cedar Ridge Homeowners Association, including all supporting records, is seized by counsel for plaintiff Jack Hollister under court supervision pending independent audit. Murmurs exploded into full-blown talking. Someone said, "seized." Someone else, "You've got to be kidding." Karen's face went white, then red. "You can't take our ledger," she snapped into the mic. Those are our internal records. That's board business. You have no right. Cole didn't raise his voice. I didn't, he said. The court did at my request. He turned slightly toward the end of the table where the HOA secretary sat, eyes wide, a thick 3-ring binder clutched like a life preserver. Ma'am, Cole said that binder you're holding Cedar Ridge HOA Capital Ledger, is that correct? She glanced at Karen, then at the deputy. Yes, she said. It's the current year and the prior too. Under this order, Cole said, tapping the projection, you're going to hand that binder to me. The deputy will simply witness the transfer. Karen half stood. Sit down, she hissed at the secretary. Do not give him anything. We can appeal. We can. Ma'am, the deputy said, rising to his feet, hand resting casually on his belt. This is a signed court order from Judge McKenna. I'm not here to argue it. I'm here to make sure nobody interferes with it. The secretary swallowed. Slowly, she stood hugging the ledger to her chest. Then, with hands that shook just enough for the front row to see, she walked it around the table to Cole. The room quieted to a hum of whispers. Cole accepted the binder like it was evidence because it was. He opened it just enough for the camera to catch the first page, Cap Improv. Security cart. $14,800 circled in red. You tried to drag my client's cabin truck off his driveway on the strength of a policy you made up, he said, looking straight at Karen. The difference between you and my client is that he brought his complaints to court and you hid yours in columns. Tonight, those columns leave with me. Karen's voice shook. This is ridiculous, she said. You're making us look corrupt in front of our own members over one truck. You did that to yourself, Hank called from the side. The truck just gave him something to point a camera at. Laughter broke again, but this time it had teeth. I glanced toward the clubhouse windows. Beyond the glass in the dark parking lot, my cabin truck sat under a sodium light reflection faint in the glass. Same dents, same camper shell. For the first time, it didn't look like a target. It looked like a witness. She tried to drag my cabin truck away, I said into the mic, more to myself than to anyone else. My attorney just dragged her ledger into the light. The email hit my inbox before I finished my first cup of coffee. Subject: significant irregularities found in HOA Capital Ledger. I read it once, then again, then a third time because every line felt like the sound of a fuse catching fire. By the time I stepped outside, Hank was already crossing my lawn waving a printout like it was a sheriff's warrant. The numbers talked Jack, he said, and they didn't whisper. My cabin truck sat in the driveway clean and still for once afternoon sun flashing off the aluminum trim. It didn't look like a symbol, but everyone who walked by gave it the kind of nod men give a workhorse that's earned its keep. The clubhouse parking lot was 3/4 full when we arrived. People leaned against tailgates and sedans murmuring in low-charged voices. Inside, the fluorescent lights hummed like nerves under skin. Cole was already there, suit-pressed binder under his arm. He gave me a short nod, the kind attorneys reserve for moments when the facts, not the fists, are finally on your side. Tyler stood behind the folding table at the front, clutching a folder that looked too thin to contain the damage it held. Karen sat to his left spine, stiff jaw locked. She didn't look at me. She looked past me through me as if she could stare this meeting into submission. This session is to review the findings of the independent audit, Tyler announced. His voice cracked on the word audit. Then he opened the folder. The auditor identified multiple capital disbursements lacking invoices, contracts, or supporting records. Items labeled Cap Improv, Security Cart, $14,800, cannot be verified. The same applies to Cap Improv, Gate Upgrades, $9,200. A ripple moved across the room, feet shuffling, someone whispering, "I knew it." Tyler continued. In addition, transfers totaling $6,000 were moved into a secondary account controlled solely by the treasurer with no approval or board vote. He swallowed. The auditor warns that these irregularities expose the association and the individual who authorized them to significant legal and financial risk. Eyes turned to Karen. She snatched her mic. "I did everything for safety," she snapped. "For order. Nobody else had the backbone to enforce rules around here. I protected property values while the rest of you stood around and complained." Cole rose like a slow-building pressure system. With respect, he said the paper trail shows otherwise. These aren't safety measures. They're undocumented expenditures. Selective enforcement. Midnight tow attempts. Emergency rules applied to one cabin truck and no one else. Karen scoffed. You don't even live here. I don't need to, Cole replied. The audit speaks for itself. And if you're concerned about who reads it next, that's between you and the state. A murmur of agreement moved across the rows of homeowners. Folded arms turned toward her. Not me. Tyler picked up another sheet. We also received a recall petition with the required number of signatures, he said. Per our bylaws, we must hold the vote now. Karen laughed a brittle cracking sound. You think you can run this place without me? When trucks start popping up on every driveway, don't come crying to me. I didn't respond. I didn't have to. My cabin truck was parked just outside the clubhouse doors, framed perfectly in the glass. Every time Karen looked that way, it reflected back at her like a quiet truth she couldn't shout down. Tyler lifted his hand. All in favor of removing treasurer and compliance chair Karen Dalrymple from the HOA board hands went up, dozens of them rising like a tide. Then more. Then more. Opposed, Karen's hand trembling was the only one lifted. Tyler exhaled. The motion passes. A strange hush filled the room. The kind that comes right after a storm breaks and people realize the house is still standing. Cole closed his binder. Hank put a hand on my shoulder. Neighbors began clapping, tentative at first, but real. Tyler addressed the room again. The emergency parking ordinance is rescinded. All fines against Mr. Hollister are void. No further action will be taken regarding his cabin truck. Outside, the late-day sun lit the camper windows like small lanterns. Karen walked past it on her way to her SUV, heels sharp on concrete. I stepped closer, not blocking her, just close enough that my words reached her without carrying. You didn't lose to my cabin truck, I said quietly. You lost to your capital ledger. She froze for half a second, just long enough to show she heard, then kept walking. Behind me, neighbors spilled from the clubhouse talking about audits, elections, and the next steps for a community that finally remembered it had a voice. My cabin truck sat exactly where it belonged, without a notice, without a threat, without a shadow over it. And, for the first time in weeks, the street felt like home again. By sundown, the cul-de-sac smelled like hickory smoke and cheap charcoal. Our neighborhood BBQ, the first one in months where people weren't whispering about fines or tow trucks had taken over the street. Kids chased each other under the string lights. Dogs snatched dropped hot dog buns. Folding tables lined the curb. And right in the center, like a guest of honor, sat my cabin truck. The tailgate was downloaded with a grill metal tongs and 2 coolers full of soda. Someone had draped a banner across the camper window, "Retired from violations proud resident." I didn't put it there. People just did it. Mia elbowed me lightly. Your truck's more popular than the food. Doesn't take much, I said. Doris burned the first batch. Doris overheard and swatted my arm with a spatula. You try cooking with 3 grandkids hanging off you like ornaments. She winked, though. The kind of wink that said we made it through. Tyler stepped onto a plastic crate near the mailbox holding a clipboard and a stack of freshly printed pages. The chatter quieted. Okay, folks, he called out. 3 quick updates, then back to eating. The crowd settled around him in a semicircle. Over his shoulder, the cabin truck's chrome trim reflected the string lights like a row of steady stars. First, he said, the board has adopted the revised parking bylaws. Starting today, worker trucks and cabin trucks are permitted to park in their driveways without restriction. That includes Mr. Hollister's truck and any other lawful work vehicle. A small cheer went up. Someone clapped me on the back. Hank raised his lemonade cup in a salute. Second, Tyler continued all emergency ordinances pushed through without proper votes are officially rescinded and struck from the record. More cheers. And third, he said lifting the last sheet annual independent audits are now mandatory. Transparent review every fiscal year. No exceptions. That one got the biggest applause of all. Tyler stepped down with a relieved smile. "No more surprises," he said. "Not on my watch." Cole wandered in from the sidewalk right on cue, tie-loosened sleeves rolled. He gave me a nod, the kind of nod a man gives when the job's over but the lesson should stick. "You brought a legal sledgehammer to a paper fortress," he said. "I just defended my driveway," I replied. He smirked. "Same thing." The night thickened into that warm, late summer glow where the sky turns deep blue and the street lamps hum. People joked about Karen days, telling stories like old soldiers trading memories of a short but ridiculous war. "Remember when she measured the curb like it was a crime scene, or when she tried to tow Jack's truck twice, or that ordinance with the imaginary property line?" Laughter rolled across the cul-de-sac. No bitterness, just release. Later, when the food was cleared and the kids had gone inside, Mia and I loaded the last crate into the cabin truck. The camper door clicked shut with that clean, certain sound I'd missed. "You ready for the cabin?" she asked. "Feels like we earned a night up there." "Yeah," I said. "Think the truck has too." People drifted over as we buckled in. Doris handed Mia a foil tray of leftover cornbread. Hank slipped a folded paper into my hand. New HOA board contacts. Handwritten, no signatures forged, no fine amounts scribbled in the margins. "Drive safe," he said, "and don't let the truck get lonely." The crowd gathered at the end of the driveway as we backed out. The rear-view mirror filled with familiar faces, smiles warm in the string-light glow. A small wave rippled through them. I eased onto the street. The cabin truck rolled smooth, unbothered, completely legal. No stickers, no notices, no threats. Just a truck in its rightful place. As we passed the clubhouse, its windows glowed soft gold. On the bulletin board outside, someone had pinned the new bylaws next to the audit summary. 2 documents that wouldn't have existed if no one had pushed back. At the stop sign, Mia rested her hand on mine. "Feels different," she said. "It is," I answered, "because people remembered this place belongs to them, not to whoever yells the loudest." We turned onto Ridge Road, climbing toward the darker silhouette of the foothills. The last of the streetlights flickered behind us, replaced by pine shadows and the quiet confidence of an open road. Halfway up the hill, I glanced at the mirror again. Down in the cul-de-sac, neighbors still stood in a loose circle, waving at the retreating taillights of a truck they had once watched like it was a problem. Tonight, it wasn't a problem. It was a damn banner. At the cabin turnout, I cut the engine. Crickets hummed. The air smelled like cold stone and pine needles. Mia leaned against the truck, looking back at the tiny necklace of lights below. "You think they'll be okay?" she asked. "They already are," I said, because the cabin truck wasn't just a truck anymore. It was evidence. It was a boundary. It was the line someone finally refused to let Karen drag across. I stood there for a long moment, cabin lights flickering on behind us, evening breeze tossing the last smoke from the BBQ into the stars. Then I said the truth of it out loud to the trees, the truck, the night, and the long road behind us. Finally, someone fought back with a cabin truck, a good attorney, and the truth inside a capital ledger. And for the first time all summer, everything felt steady again. The new bylaws were posted on the clubhouse board, the seals still drying under the string lights, and my cabin truck sat clean and unbothered beneath it, proof that the line finally held. Neighbors talked softer now, the kind of tone people use when a long fight ends without shouting, just a posted order that made things right. I realized the truck wasn't the victory. The victory was a community remembering it, owned its rules, not the person who abused them. It taught me that due process isn't loud, but it moves mountains when people stand behind it. Finally, someone fought back. Share your HOA story below your map might help someone redraw theirs.